We would like to welcome Ian Hunter of Mott the Hoople to Nights with Alice Cooper. Welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
So, first, of course, you and Alice kind of came out around the same time, late 60s. Tell me about the first time you either met or saw the Alice Cooper Band.
No, we didn't know them. We wound up at Philadelphia Spectrum, which is about an 18,000 seater. We were opening for them, and I remember when they came in, because it was Dennis Dunaway, it was all the original Neil, and they looked amazing. And I just thought, if they play as good as they look, we've had it. And same with the Dolls, actually. If they play as good as they look, we've had it. Fortunately, we gave as good as we got, so we did all right. But yeah, Alice was huge, still is. You know.
First, we're of course excited about the Mott the Hoople 74 gig. When that was announced, I've never seen so many people go crazy. It was just, people were practically lining up to get tickets if they did that these days. So I guess my first question would be, you did a similar short tour to this last year in the UK.
Yeah.
Will the U.S. tour be similar to the shows in the U.K., or what can you tell us that you have planned for your short tour here in the U.S.?
It was based around, it's the Hoople 74, so, it's the Hoople album. And there was a double live album, half at the Eurus and half in London. And it's based around that. It's based around basically the second half, with Ariel Bender and Morgan Fisher. They were in the band when people like Queen were opening for us, and Aerosmith and stuff like that, and they were the band that did Broadway, the Eurus. In fact, how this all came together because Ron Delsner, said, "Why don't you do the Beacon?" and it went from there.
Am I correct in thinking the show will end in 1974? There won't be any of your solo material. We won't get Once Bitten, anything like that in this tour.
No, it's strictly Mott.
Excellent. And of course, I know you've played with Dennis, your keyboard player, Paul, bass player, Steve, the drummer. So when they first came on board, were you having to talk to Paul about playing like Overend, or was Steve, playing like Dale, or did you allow them to reinvent those original parts, or how does that work?
You don't have to do that with a ramp band. Paul, you talk about Paul. I mean, Paul, it's got to be right, and he does his homework. Ramp band very seldom actually rehearse. They just do homework, so that it keeps it fresh when we go out. Because you can grind it into the ground. No point in doing that.
Of course. So tell me, how do you believe that your voice and playing has changed over the years?
I'm a semi-toned down, along with a lot of my illustrious mates. You learn how to. I think I'm a little better vocally. Actually, I've never said that. That's the first time I've said it, and I don't know why I just said it. But you kind of learn. It's like anything else. If you're a plumber, you get better at it.
Nice. I mean, do you think your voice has more gravitas or depth, or?
My voice is limited, so you have to learn how to use a voice like that. It's more over on the Sonny Bono, Bob Dylan neck of the woods, than Paul Rodgers or somebody like that, So I call it phrase singing. It's percussive too. It comes off drums, a lot of it, When you write a lyric, you don't just write the lyric. You're writing with the vocal in mind, and it's not like I can sing anything. So it's maybe a tad more difficult because you've got to write to the best of your vocal abilities as well as the lyric. Right.
So you mentioned that the live album was recorded at the Eurus, which became the, I know this one too, the Gershwin, I think. But now, was that the very first U.S. show of?
No, we'd been here before. We'd a couple of halfway uppers, like clubs and stuff like that, I wrote a book about one tour we did over here. It was, sometimes you headline, sometimes you open for somebody else, and sometimes you were in the middle. It was interesting. You didn't know what was going to happen, and the factory was our only option, so we persevered.
I'm very curious. You mentioned the book, Diary of a Rock and Roll Star. Why hasn't that been optioned for a movie or made into a film?
They don't know quite how to do it. The Beeb. I've had numerous meetings with the Beeb, and they're very, very nice. They're very, very suave. And I'm thinking about the guy now. It's so typical Beeb, but they can't quite figure out how to do it, And I don't think, I don't see it. I don't see it. To tell you the truth, that guy who played Jerry Lee Lewis, what was his name? He made such a mess of it that.
I want to say, I know it's not Kurt Russell, but that's the only name I
No,
can
it
think
wasn't.
of. We'll think of it.
Dennis
Quaid, yes, Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid, yeah, that would put you off for life, you know. But if you got Bill Nighy to do it, I'd be up for that.
That was going to be my question. Who would you want to play you? And there's no one more perfect. I mean,
he's a little suaver than I am, but I have a lot of respect and admiration for Bill Nighy. You know, anything he's in, I have to watch.
Are you personal friends?
No, I just love Bill Nighy and Tom Hardy. They're my two favourite English actors.
I actually like Dylan Moran. Do you know him? I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually. I think he also used to be a musician. But
Black Box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Such a great show. All right, moving on from our fandom here. Of course, Queen, as you mentioned, were openers for you, and we were just talking about your book. So let's talk about the Queen movie. I'm sure you've been asked this. Have you seen Bohemian Rhapsody, and what's your review?
Yeah, I'm in the club, so I get them. They send them to me. You know. I thought the first third was kind of MTV-ish. The last half hour was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I love it, and the guy who played him did an amazing job. But a bit wimpy, you know, the first before we get to the live show, to be honest. And I love Brian and I love Rog, but I got to tell you the truth, you know.
No, appreciated. So when you invited Queen to open for you. You know, these days there's so many, you know, deals and things. Bands don't always get invited. It's often just business. So what did you see in Queen, and were you friends with Freddie Mercury?
I can't remember. Well, no, we would only take great bands out with us because we believed in fans having a great night. That was how we looked at it. I mean, a lot of bands would take crap bands out with them because it made them look better. We didn't do it like that at all. We enjoyed all right, you're going to try and do us, we'll do you. You know, we enjoyed all that. But they just felt, it was like a 9-piece band. They just fell right in with us. And we had a great time with them, you know. And Fred was Fred. Not like in the movie.
So I'm curious, when you played here on that 74 tour and were in New York, that was the height of CBGB's, Max's Kansas City, all that great stuff. Did you guys hang out at any of those places?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I used to go down to CB's. Yeah.
And do you remember adventures or what bands you saw or who you met?
I remember Blondie one night. And I lived in Chappaqua, upstate. And they all came back upstate.
Oh, now I need the rest of that story.
Left CB's about midnight, and they all came up to Chappaqua, and we played all night. Yeah. It was a lot of fun in those days. It really was.
What kind of stuff were you playing?
I don't know. I remember thinking, God, she's not all that, you know, I was playing the piano and she was right next to me. Oh, I love her. She's an icon, you know, but this was 2 a.m, you know.
Maybe a few cocktails as well. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah, could have been.
So when you have such, you know, illustrious friends, you know, Brian May, if you saw him on the Oscars, he still sounds and looks great.
He'll love that. I'll tell him you're illustrious, Brian.
So when you play a show like the Beacon here in New York, do you expect Brian May to jump up? Not that he lives here, or Debbie Harry to come up. Will you have guests on any of your shows?
I've no idea. You know, it happens now and again. There's no real. It's geography. If anybody's off and anybody's around, you know. But if everybody's away, it's geography.
Right, of course. We talked before the interview began a little bit about you're playing with the Hollywood Vampires on the sort of ill-fated night where Joe Perry, I guess, collapsed. How did you, obviously, also we discussed you had Aerosmith playing with you in 73. So how did you get that Hollywood Vampires call? Who did you know in the band, and why did you decide to do that?
Johnny Depp rang me up. There's a photographer that he uses that you know, has done me. And
Is that Ross Halfin?
Yeah, Ross. And Ross said, this bloke really likes your book and all the rest of it. And just one thing led to another, you know. And he's got up with the Amp Band a couple of times, you know. It's nice.
So.
And then they asked me to go and do that. But really, John is the one that asked me to do it.
So are you saying you knew him before he rang you up, or no?
No, I didn't know him at all. No. Ross said he likes your book. Would you do? I forget what happened, but he rang me up anyway with the bass player, who was the bass player at that time. I don't think he's not with him anymore. Lovely bloke. And then Joe was with him too. I talked to Joe Perry. Yeah.
So, were you friendly with the Aerosmith guys during that tour? Have you kept in touch with someone like Joe Perry?
No, not really. But when I see him, yeah, I'm like their big brother, because they open. You don't. When you open for somebody, that's how it is for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter how big you are. You still in that when you meet them, you're still in that. I know because I've done it. I'm kind of like their big brother. So we did like last year. We did festivals, and they were on one of them. And I go around and see Tom.
So you mentioned it's always like that. Who are you that way with? Who's your big musical brother?
Oh, I haven't met my big Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis. That's rock and roll. Fun.
I know you've done some covers over the years, especially early. Of course, there was a big trend to doing cover albums. Have you done an entire album of covers, or would you consider that?
No. Well, I don't know. I'd say I wouldn't consider it. I'd never thought about doing that. Early on we did it because we weren't writing. So Guy Stevens, who was managing us, would come in with these real odd songs, which kind of suited us. And so we would do that, But I don't know. I just write the next record.
What Jerry Lee Lewis song would you want to do?
Oh, Ballad of Billy Joe. You probably never heard of it. No. I'm the man that's gonna hang for killing Billy Joe. It's an old country song, lovely.
I'm curious. I know you've lived in America for a very long time. Was it musicians and songs like these that made you stay here, or why did you settle here in the States?
Well, I lived in a market town in 50 miles west of Birmingham in England, and I should have been born anywhere south of Memphis. It's as simple as that,
Yeah, during the good old days. I don't think Memphis has changed as much as Nashville has. So
I don't really go down there that much, but that was when I was growing up. That was when you came out of the cinema and you walked up the street. It was like, no, this is the wrong street.
You wanted to live in a spaghetti western and drive a Ford down tumbleweed streets.
Faraday, Louisiana.
A lot of great stuff, of course. Yes. All right. So I'm also curious, since you live in this area and you worked with David Bowie, did you get a chance to go to the exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum a year or so ago, the big Bowie exhibit?
No, not really. He was a nice bloke, we had a great time about a year, but that's way back, We were not at all similar as people, So that was that. Most enjoyable.
A lot of larger institutions like the V&A in the UK are doing rock and roll exhibitions. I'm sure if there hasn't been one on you and Mott, that there will be soon.
Well, it's up to them. I don't care about stuff like that.
It'll be a whole bunch of sunglasses in a row.
Yeah. I'll give them. I've got plenty. Spares. I don't really care about that. To me, I'm in it for what I was in it for when I was 15. And that's the fun and the camaraderie and the positiveness of it. I'm not a big fan of heavy metal. I prefer the roots.
Well, when you say positiveness, positivity, you've written songs, somewhat political songs. Are those positive songs?
Well, it all depends on who's running the country at the time.
Are you a citizen
of this country?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We won't talk about Brexit.
Well, it's so complicated. It's very hard to talk about. I try to follow it, And people say, should we stay or should we leave? Well, it's not good either way. But I remember not wanting to go in the first place, way back when, because I thought that, Euro MPs are not elected. The British MPs are. So I thought, this gets them off the hook. They can do whatever they want and blame. That was why I didn't want them to go in. But they went in, and there's a lot of advantages, obviously, to that. We don't have customs at every border. This is what we used to have to do, and this is what we'll have to do again. unless she can pull it off last minute.
Yeah, I was just thinking they should be using the Clash song "Should I Stay or Should I Go" as the theme, right? They must be. They have to be.
What gets me is we move in the day after. We tour Europe. We tour England. You know, like from the, I don't know, the 15th, 16th of April.
Hopefully.
I'm wondering if we're going to get paid. You know.
Or what currency you'll be paid in? Who knows?
Well, I got a feeling, like everything else in politics, it'll probably wind up about the same when it all dies down. You know.
Right, right. All right, just a few more questions for you. Everyone, of course, wants to know about Mick Ralphs, how his health is, and if you've been in touch with him at all.
It's not really changed, you know. I mean, with my father was the same, and he recovered after about 8 years. He got back to normal. Mick's, he's hanging in, but there's not much change so far, you know. You just live in hope, basically. He's in a great place. You know, he's well looked after and everything.
Right, right.
And there's not a lot you can do. I mean, nature takes its course.
It does. All right, not to dwell on all the negative. This will be positive because he's a wonderful, creative person. And Mick Ronson, of course, there was a kind of a great document. I thought it was a good documentary a few years ago that, you know, really called him out for the unsung hero that he is. And obviously, I believe your song's called Michael Picasso, yes?
Yes.
So I guess we know what you thought of him. But I mean,
Oh, yeah.
how would you describe your working relationship with Mick, what he brought to you and what your...
We were lazy, too lazy. We were both lazy. If one of us hadn't been lazy, it would have been great. And it was great anyway, but I mean, the whole thing with him, he was the same as me, fun. We were in it for the fun, we weren't in it for the money. And that became a bit of a problem down the road for him, you know. But he wound up doing well. I mean, when he passed, he was producing Morrissey. He got a solo deal with Epic. You know, it's like he didn't want to go, you know. And for it all to be happening right then, what a nightmare, you know. It was horrible for a couple of years, you know.
Is there any unreleased material that you two did together?
Oh, I don't know. We never look back. You know, somebody just did a box set of mine, and you need somebody to do that kind of thing. I can't look back. I just like looking forward, you know.
Good for you. All right. Well, let's speak about forward then. You will be turning 80 right after this tour ends.
Thanks very much.
That's all right. Well, how old are the Stones now? They're almost 80. All the good ones are in that age group, in my opinion. Alice turned 71, so.
He's a baby.
Just a kid. So will this?
I said to Mick here, I'm like a lot older than all these other people. And Mick said, take 7 years off because tell them you were in hospital. It doesn't count.
Well, you know, everything is the new 20, so, you know, just keep that in mind. I would imagine, just for posterity, you will be recording the 74 U.S. tour?
No, nothing like that. No, too complicated.
Isn't it more... with digital, everything's simpler these days.
This is Mott the Hoople or version of you're talking about. Nothing makes any sense except the stage show. The stage show is great. Off stage, we have a great time, but no.
What adjective would you use to describe off stage? Is it shambles, or is it party, or is it?
It's always been a great shambles. Yeah, it's always been a great shambles. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's tiring, but not now. But at the time, it was. You know, a bit chaotic all the way through. But you know, survived.
So, if you were to write another rock and roll diary based around this tour, what do you think would be different from your first book, or what would you think you would call this tour if you were to write a book?
Well, we were skint. I'm not skint anymore. I mean, that's a big one. You know, there's not that nervousness about what's going to happen here. You know, like, are we actually going to make a living out of this? Are we going to have to go back to work? You know, so that's out the way. So it's pure fun. The only reason I wanted to do it was because the first two get-togethers, they were in England, 2009, 2012, original band. They didn't want anybody else involved. And Luther came to those gigs, and so did Morgan, and they were very sporting about it. And I just felt bad about it, and so did Pete. the bass player, and I just thought if I get a window, they're owed, because Luther pretty much kept it going for about a year on his own. We were tired. He had a tremendous amount of energy and positiveness about him. And so it came up in this time frame, and we were just going to do England, and then Delsner came through with Beacon, and then one thing led to another, and now we're doing a few.
Do you imagine that there will be some fans who travel to every show in the U.S.?
We have travellers anyway. We're going with the Ramp Band. Great. I think every band probably gets their travellers, and they're great. Couldn't do without them.
I know you got into the music business quite young, but did you ever follow a band like that?
No. I remember going to see Buddy Holly at De Montfort Hall in Leicester, and everybody ran down and kissed his feet. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, he's great, but I'm not going down there and kissing his feet. So I guess I never had the fan thing,
Oh, very interesting.
I just like playing their records and stuff, I never really wanted to meet anybody, Jerry Lee, probably above all, and I never wanted to meet him. I just loved his music,
So that means when you meet someone like a Johnny Depp who, couldn't be a bigger movie star, you're not really intimidated or overly excited?
Well, you're always a bit tense when you meet somebody that's on top of the game, but he wanted to meet me, so it's easy. It's not like I crashed his dressing room or something, you know what I mean? So it's easy. He does what he does, I do what I do, and he loves some of the stuff that I do, which helps. He knows stuff that a lot of people don't know, which surprised me.
Well, I think your ultimate super fan is probably Joe Elliott of Def Leppard.
Yeah, Joe, yeah.
He is somewhat obsessed with you, I would say, almost.
I don't know.
Not in a bad way. I'm not saying he's going to
No.
stand outside your window.
I've known Joe a long time now, He's great. Big heart, says what he means. People disagree with him, he'll disagree back. Sheffield boy, Sheffield Steel. Yeah.
I know. It was actually, I remember him talking to me about British Lions even, and I'm like, you have to be responsible for educating everyone. He's like, I am. I play it on my radio show all the time. So I think that's lovely that he's bringing back and keeping alive.
Yeah, and there's no messing with him. It's not like when he first started coming, he would get up at gigs, and the purists are why is he getting up and all that. Now they all love him because they know he does it for the real reason. He's not doing it for any other reason than he just wants to do it. He's going to every English gig now that we do at the end of April. He'll be there every night. Yeah,
his heart is in the right place, definitely. He's a true fan.
All my lot, and I've inherited a lot of their fans too, because they get fed up listening to it. Might as well have a look and see what it's about. And sometimes people like it, So I got him to thank for that.
Nice. So obviously this U.S. tour is appealing to all the people who, loved you back then or missed you back then. Are you expecting to have new fans from this?
I've no idea. Usually they'll drag along their reluctant kids who stare at you defiantly, and you convert some of them and some of them you don't, I'm amazed anybody comes. I remember Frank Riley doing the American tour and he was like, no, this isn't going to work, but it seems to be working.
Oh, yeah. I got a special credit card so I could get the pre-sale to get my tickets, and then I still ended up like two from the ceiling.
What a racket. Nobody seems to be able to do anything about it,
That is difficult. I think Pearl Jam was the one band some years ago who stood up to Ticketmaster
too. People have tried considerably more weight than I'll ever have, and there doesn't seem to be any way around it. It's part of the American experience.
You don't think it's that way in other countries, or
I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't see. I'm a club guy. I do clubs and small theatres and you don't come up against that there, There it's you get what you get,
Right.
But now, of course, I've forgotten all about this. This is a whole other thing,
Right. I've read some articles where you've spoken about fame, and when I was with Alice before the show in Coney Island, he was so excited that you were playing. Like they were all like elbowing each other. Ian Hunter's playing. They were like little fans. But I feel you have the kind of fame where you can walk down the street where Johnny Depp cannot move without a bubble around him.
I hover on the periphery. I'm what they call under the radar, and it's great.
Was it ever not great?
Yeah, I mean, for a fortnight, you know. I lived in Wembley, and there was a girls' school just down the road, and we were having the hits. We had 6 straight hits over there. And you get up in the morning, want to go and get fags, run out of fags, you know, and you couldn't because you had to wait till they went to school. It was annoying. So for a fortnight, yeah, it was great, you know, and then no. Then it became annoying.
And so when you walk down the street here in New York, do
It's
people...
great.
I mean, how often are you stopped?
I'm not stopped. I mean, they might get a couple of peculiar looks, and I'm not sure why. but no, nobody bothers me. No, I mean, under the radar. That's the way I like it. Great.
And if someone comes up to you and says, "Oh my God, I've..."
Not a problem. No, I mean, I don't get mobbed or anything like that. So a couple of people come up, fine. That doesn't bother me.
Right. All right. So you said you're looking to the future. I don't think I asked this question yet, though it was in my mind. So excuse me if I did. Will this lineup write any new music?
No. This is strictly for fun. This is the payback to Luther and Morgan for the amount of effort they put in when the band was tired. You know, that's what this is.
Okay. So then, in terms of the future, we have solo music from you, or what's next after all this?
I'll make
74?
a record in the summer. It's nearly done. Yeah.
Can you give us a little clue about who's producing or what the sound or vibe
Oh,
might
we do
be?
it ourselves. We go to a little studio in New Jersey, and a guy called Andy York. Andy York is John Mellencamp's guitar player. He helps out with the production. And the band, you know, I've had the band, 20 years or so? Well, 18 years. So pretty much sit down and figure it out and do it, you know.
And I haven't looked at your solo discography. I saw you some years back, but have you written a record since Trump was elected?
No. I'm in the process.
So what are the themes of some of these songs, perhaps?
I don't really know. Sometimes something hits you. There's a The Third Rail comes to mind. There's a song called The Third Rail. You know, with it's underground being like it is and all the rest of it. Stuff that hits you, something you read about or you hear about, turns into... and then people, what do people want? It's so strange at the moment. You know, the believability, not being able to tell the difference between an actor and the real thing, whether it be political, musical, or whatever. I find that dangerous, you know.
How do you listen to new music or music in general? I mean, do you stream? Do you vinyl? How do you do it?
People might just say, check this out, you know, and I'll go and check it out. 1975, I like that band. They're kind of like, you know, digital, but they're us in a way, and their front man is great. Struts, I like the Struts, as I would, you know. I recommended him for the Freddie gig, you know, to Brian, but it never came off. But he has the confidence. He has that, you know. Fuck you. He has that, you know.
I'm curious when you talked about the, you know, fun shambles off stage.
Yeah.
Who is organizing things? Like, I mean, I'm thinking of the T-shirts I will buy and the posters I will buy. Do you have all your merchandise and stuff like that set for this tour?
Yeah, I think so.
Will it be retro?
I don't know. I really don't.
I mean, the album
That's
cover.
the administrative side of things, you know what I mean?
Right.
All I do is try and get this in working condition so I can survive, because there's a lot of gigs in a short period of time, you know. I don't know if there's going to be T-shirts, you know.
I'm just thinking of the iconic album cover with all of you in her hair.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, if it comes up, tell them I'd like that one.
I know Universal just gave us a courtesy call, said they're putting vinyl out again. I guess because of what we're doing now, you know. But that's all I know. I don't really take any much notice of that. I just like playing. Mm-hmm.
And you prefer playing to writing and being in the studio?
I like it the way it is. A bit of both. When you're on the road, you want to be home, and when you're at home, you want to be on the road. You know, that's the way it is. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's annoying.
And to all the wives who are involved, it's annoying as well.
Oh, she comes with me.
Well,
we're 46 years. She comes with me. She has a lot to do with the. I mean, you ask her about the T-shirt, she'll know.
I believe there is a song about her. Will you be playing that one?
Not really, because it's quiet. It's very, very quiet, you know. And you can do a couple of quiet ones, but you know, a show is a show. People don't want to come down too far, and it's an extremely quiet little song. Whereas there's a couple of other songs we do, and yes, they're slow, but they're dynamic. They're much more visual and much more dynamic. So no, I've never done that song. Trudy's song, it's called.
Yes.
Never done it. No.
Never.
No, I get in trouble now and again. You know.
I think if you just did it on your anniversary for her alone, you'd be set.
Yeah. I'll probably. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's easy to do, but it's just like a little acoustic, quiet sort of thing, you know. And so others. There's a lot of slow songs that take precedence for one reason or another.
Do you think you will do the same set every night on this tour?
More or less. That's with the Wham band. It changes a lot. They know about 70 songs, but with this, you know, it's in and out. So there'll be a couple of changes, but that'll be about it, you know.
Well, and so you just mentioned never playing Trudy's song. On this tour, do you think there will be any songs you've never played before?
Live?
Live.
A lot of it's not been played since the original tour, you know. But I don't really know, you know. I go back and we can do this, we can do that, yes, we can do this, you know. Like, and some of them are involved and some of them aren't. I wouldn't want to do. There's a song called "Through the Looking Glass" on the Hoople. This wouldn't work live, you know. So there's certain songs you don't do, and then some of them come to the party, you know. The medleys. You've got a lot of stuff. You want to make a medley.
There's a song called Alice, even.
Alice, you know, is on the okay, you know. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Ian Hunter, for being on Nights with Alice Cooper.
Thanks for having me.